Okay. People are still coming in, but we'll get started.
Anybody for a beer?
Yes.
What kind of beer?
Yes, me. Oh, who said what kind of beer?
That was me.
Masquerading as water.
That's right. Yeah,
I
right.
wish.
Your secret's out. I wasn't supposed to tell anybody. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And just admitting people, more and more people are coming in. So without any further ado, one of the squares there on your screen, probably next to me, is Maestro Ron Carter. Yay, Maestro.
All right. One of my concerns for these talks is that the women never get a question in until I ask specifically near the last goodbye for a question from one of the female guests. So I'm going to not find that acceptable any longer. And Endora McNeary, you still among the living and smiling?
Yes, Ron, how are you?
Good. Well, continue that kind of look and give me a question.
All right, well, I have
That's it. Next. Come on, Endora.
Okay, I'd like to start with when would you say your career in music education began as an educator?
I moved to New York August of 1959, and I took an exam for the New York State Teachers Board of Education. I was a substitute teacher for my first 6 months in New York while I was here. I taught phys ed, geography, and math. And because that's what they needed, substitute teachers at that time. Who didn't show up, I fill in wherever they were not there. Music was not on my list of things to teach because that was not what their needs were at that moment. Having said that, I was thrust into teaching music during my undergraduate days at Eastman School of Music. I was what they call a PSM, public school music person. And for a semester, we went around and did music classes at the local junior high or high school. One of my students at that time was Pee Wee Ellis, before he got famous with James Brown. So I've been involved with teaching music from way a long time ago, in my undergraduate days, but it became part of my way of earning a living when I came to New York. And until I found some gigs to do, made me have more time to play, and got a substitute taught in New York, not music, but courses. So I was already into the New York City teaching system as a qualified substitute teacher in New York permanently. Along the way, for those students, I picked up some students along the way as I was making gigs in New York to come by and have a lesson as a part of their process. So that probably dates my time of teaching music, August of 1959, for a living. The spring and fall of 1958, teaching music courses as part of my undergraduate needs of the course. But my teaching music for a living probably didn't start until I graduated from the Manhattan School of Music in 1961.
Fantastic. And what do you find more rewarding, creating music for the world to enjoy or teaching music?
55 for the first part, 55.1 for the second part.
Wonderful. So that's a balance right there.
Yeah, bass players never had right except it comes to pay. So kind of pick the right answer for you.
Thank you. I'll let someone else get a question in.
Okay, but don't go away because I'm going to make sure you're awake for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to ask you again.
Somebody just put a question in the chat.
Oh, can we go to the chat?
Yes, Richard Allen.
Yes.
Richard, why don't you just ask Mr. Carter your question directly? You can unmute
Okay.
yourself.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Carter. You remember me from Italy, I hope.
Yes, I have a couple of pocket squares nearby.
That's great. That's really, really great. Mr. Carter, I simply wanted to ask you a non-musical question.
I don't know. I'm pretty musical, man. It's hard to be to step down, but give it a shot. Give it to me.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about the way that you dress.
Okay.
You know, when you started, if I may say, in the 50s and the 60s, a suit and tie was, you know, de rigueur for a performer. If we take your work with Miles Davis, you know, you were all suited and booted, as we say in English.
Yes.
Then the 60s and 70s came along, and everybody relaxed and got
No.
No. Okay, I said everybody. I haven't finished, sir, except you.
Right.
And you kept, you know, the standard up with suits and ties and formality, which is all credit to you, sir. But I wanted to ask why and how it affects the way that you play.
My groups, each member of the Ron Carter group constabulary must have a dark suit, must have a tuxedo,
Okay.
and must enjoy wearing them.
Okay.
One of the reasons, Richard, is that I want the audience to know that we are serious going to work. And I
Okay.
think the audience, when they see you walk out with your gym stuff or your bicycle stuff or your training stuff, they see you as having two occupations. One, which you're wearing the bicycle stuff, and two, when you put your horn to your mouth and start to play. When they see us, I want them to see us to understand that our first responsibility on this planet is playing music, in this case, for them, plural. And one way to get their attention is by dressing for the job.
Okay.
Secondly, I think that presents us with a whole new visual palette. You know, some guys are against wearing uniforms in terms of everyone wearing matching ties and scarves. Well, there aren't many organizations today that don't have some kind of uniform look, whether it's the guard at the local mall, the policeman on the beat, the school bus driver, the classical orchestra, the ballet orchestra. Why are we so different that we must look so dramatically apart from that uniform look to have the audience focus just on us and how we sound? Thirdly, Richard, I look great in nice clothes.
I agree.
Wait a minute, Richard, and I have a lot of them.
That I imagined.
And I'm determined to get my wife's money worth for them. And your ties and pocket squares. By the way, Richard sent me two great colored ties, a great orange and a nice green that I wear with a black watch plaid suit, and some very, very nice pocket squares, which I'm only too happy to wear. Not now, because I'm just going to the bank to deposit some checks I wrote last week.
Okay.
But
it's a great privilege for you to have you wear our product. It's great.
They're great. They're really lovely, Richard. And I haven't gotten back to you. I have your disc. I just haven't found time to respond to you, but I will in the next week or so.
That's very kind. You know, it's that's going to be way down on your list of priorities.
No. It's medium.
Okay. I appreciate that greatly. One last very simple question. You're coming to Italy to play in Alba, which is very far away. Do you think there'll be extra dates nearer to Milan?
As soon as I get a specific itinerary, I'll tell you.
I think I can answer that. One second.
Oh, great, Penny.
Let me.
Anyway, Mr. Carter, it's great to talk to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. No time at all. Nice squares, by the way. Great silken colors.
Great. Pleased to hear it.
I have a question.
I have the Italy dates here. Padova. Benevento. I'll apologize for my
Benevento, okay, that's- pronunciation.
pronunciation.
Okay, Benevento is very far away.
Montalcino.
Okay.
Pardon?
Okay, we're going. Hang on, my wife is listening. Can you repeat again, Penny, kindly?
Montalcino. Montalcino. That's in Tuscany. That's south
Okay,
of
okay.
Florence.
Padua is good. Padua is
Padua is good. Okay, that's on the 7th, July 7th.
okay. Any other dates?
Not in that city.
Okay, but anywhere else?
La Spezia. La Spezia.
Okay, let's think about that another time.
Yeah.
Let's kind of get those people.
Okay,
Right.
okay. I apologize.
No,
Thank
no,
you,
no,
Mr.
no, no,
Carson.
no.
All the best.
Keep those ties and scarves coming, Richard.
Okay, you got it.
Well, got music. That's a nice title for a song.
I have a question. Or,
Yes,
or- Me?
Yes, Mr. Down with two ends.
Yeah, down with two ends. Just taking you down memory lane as you guys are mentioning education and teaching. I think after your first steps, Oliver Nelson got you to come out to Washington U in 1969 for a summer jazz clinic. I think it was 6 weeks. And I was the guy who dragged you all around, made you do all those terrible things.
By the way, Don, one of our stories, if I can share this private moment out loud, we were driving from somewhere, and I looked back behind the car, and these three young men are being physically abusive to a much older gentleman. Remember that?
No.
Okay, I do. So I said, Don, pull over to this abandoned gas station. I'm going to get out of the car. I'm going to find the biggest board I can find, and I'm going to wail on those guys' heads for beating this old guy up. And you said, why would I do that? I said, well, I don't want to see that. I think it's not necessary. And Jim Hall will wait till I get to the gig to take care of this business here. So you reluctantly stopped the car and said, okay, well, I'll go with you. I said, well, let's get this party started. And by the time we stopped the car and found something I thought would kind of be my bass for a moment, I'm going to play onto these guys' heads. They had kind of separated, and the old guy was kind of on his own, and these guys who were being really rude to him and unpleasant had found someone else to harangue. Yeah, I remember that, Don. I don't remember you having two ends, but I remember you being a little surprised that I wanted to stop the car and get involved in this physical confrontation. That's not what I usually do either, but I just thought that, man, what are those guys beating up on this guy for? Let him go. Whatever it is, he can't harm them. And I was going to let them know that here's one guy who's not from here, but who has his own set of moral values, is not going to stand by and watch you guys kick this guy's ass. No, man, that's not in my program. I know the melody, but I hate those lyrics. I'm going to take it to the bridge and kick this guy. No, stop the car. Stop right now. Yeah, 1969, huh? Well, I haven't forgotten that. That's emblazoned right here, man. I just feel my anger toward those kids,
Yeah.
those younger guys, you know. Anyway, how are you after my private story
Yeah,
with you?
I suppose it's been about 50 years.
You still playing trumpet?
You know, I wasn't, but when the pandemic started, I had all that time. I thought, why not? So I've been taking lessons for 2 years now. I'm not
Good for
any
you.
better.
Good for you. That's okay.
I have here's a Ron Carter story for you all. And one of the things that I did at this clinic, which I was called the administrator, whatever that means, I just think it was gopher. I was head gopher. And one of the things I did was to get Ron into jazz DJs for interviews, usually later on in the evening. So this is a real coup for somebody to have a Ron Carter from Miles Davis fame walk in here. I mean, geez, who could hardly wait to ask him a question or to see how he is or whatever. So we walk in there, and the mic is in the center, and Ron sits down on one side, and the DJ is on the other. And the first question this guy asks is, how's the Prince? And Ron thought about that for 10 seconds or so. He already knew, and then he said, what Prince? Footprints? Well, I lost it on that one. I was on the floor. That was one of the funniest things I ever heard, and nobody much knew what it meant or what had happened. But, Miles being the Prince, this guy was more interested in asking about Miles then he has this world famous guy right in front of him, which I thought was an insult, and Ron did the perfect comeback. So I've always remembered that.
Boy, it's great to see you, Don. I hadn't thought about those stories in a very long. I forget that Jim Hall and we did a very short tour, duo tour back in the day, and when the tours were available for duos at the small colleges and groups, It's good to see you, and I'm sorry we haven't made contact. It's nice to hear your voice and see
Hey,
you.
one more quick one. You remember Bob Belmer?
Yes.
Looked like me. Okay. He has always said whenever he walked in, you'd say hi, Don. So when you were in St. Louis, you had that extension added onto your bass.
Yes.
Do you recall where you had that done?
I was asked that question 2 nights ago. It was Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Bass Shop, and I'll think of the guy's name in a minute. But I was going my way. I was driving from New York down to the bass shop in Cincinnati for repair, and went myself and I were going up to the Notre Dame Jazz Festival from that stop. And this guy whose name just skipped my mind decided told me he was working on a bass extension. Was I interested? I said, well, I don't know, man. The one I've seen were at the orchestra and they were metal and they were clunky and they didn't work all the time. They had another 10 pounds to the bass waist. I just wanted to do it. He said, no, I got a way to do that. I'm going to cut into your scroll. And I heard that sound and go, wait. I'm going to cut into the scroll. I'm going to install the extension fingerboard where that would be. If you don't like it, I'll save the pieces and you come back and I'll reinstall it. Okay, that was like 1968, was done about that time. And I've had the same one on the bass since then. And what cracks me up, Don, is all the guys who use that concept, who have it, they think that their luthier is the first guy who ever had that. And none of them have a clue that this concept was an experiment by the local repairman in Cincinnati, at the bass shop in Cincinnati, tried on a jazz bass player's bass the summer of 1968. Yeah. I'll think of his name before we cut off the air and I'll tell you, but it just kind of chucked something or other, but a great guy.
Bob just thought that you went out of town to do it, and I thought you had known someone in St. Louis downtown that did it. So you went to Cincinnati to...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, the St. Louis group was the Joe Charles, Alvin Nelson's group of kids.
Uh-huh.
They were bagged at the Black Activist group, something like that, down in Cincinnati for the summer. And Hammett Blewett was one of the guys who was down there.
Uh-huh.
Oliver Lake, some really wonderful young players who ultimately came to New York within the following 2 years for that summer, 6-week summer class at the Washington University music program for the summer. That was the summer when all the riots took place and schools were determined to have these underprivileged kids have something to do for the summer. The first thing was have a school. How about a jazz school? How about the local star, Oliver Nelson? Bring somebody in from New York to run the program. How about that guy in New York who plays something called a string upright bass? What they call that? Yeah, get that guy. That's how I got the gig. There.
Well, congratulations on the 85 and the concert
Thank you.
and everything. And it's so good to see you and talk to you again. Appreciate
Good to see you. Thank you for those memories. Wow. Time is a wonderful thing when it's on your side.
That's it.
Marshall Zucker has
Yes.
a question.
Okay.
Zucker, do you want
Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
I'm probably the oldest amateur vibes player. I started taking my lessons in November of 1963. And I was a full-time educator. I retired, so I got to play the vibes with the kids for years, and it's great. But again, I consider myself a very advanced amateur. I was listening this week to I wanted to go through different players that played with you. And certainly I think my favorite record that I know of that you made playing with a great vibes player was the record that Mildred Jackson made at the Museum of Modern Art.
Yes.
With I think Candy Finch might have been the drummer, Cedar Walton, and James Moody.
Yes. Nice record.
What a great record that is. and I listened. I know that you made the Hip Vibrations album with Cal Jada, who he was the one I really listened to lots and lots. The three, I'm just trying to think about. I don't know if you ever made her with Red Norvo, but
No.
what about with Terry Gibbs or with Mr. Hampton?
I made a record with Lionel Hampton back in the day. I talked to Terry Gibbs on his 101st birthday, by the way, about 3 months ago. He called me to say, Jerry had told me it was my birthday. How you doing, Ron? We had a great old man's conversation. Ha, 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 ha. And we had a really some nice thoughts going by because he was a guy who's almost 20 years older than I am, and I'm up there in the high numbers. I love the conversation. But I made several records with Milt that you haven't mentioned.
The other one on it was made around the same time. The new concept album.
Hold on 1 minute. I give you three quick titles, okay?
Yes, sir.
Milt Jackson, Sunflower.
Okay. Yes,
A
sir.
fantastic record.
Yes.
Milt Jackson, Olinga.
Okay. Sure. Another CTI. Yep. Or
Milt Jackson, Goodbye with Hubert Laws. These are all Milt Jackson with the Uptown String Quartet done on the picture of a tar beach, we used to call it, on the top of a building. There are a lot of records I made with him, and the one with the museum, I just found that a year ago. I didn't know they recorded it. I didn't remember getting paid for it, but it was a nice sounding record.
it's just beautiful. I could hear you so well. I could hear and it must have been a lot of fun. I mean, James Moody always must have been so much fun to be with. He sang that silly song, it was terrific. But Milt Jackson's playing it. I bought a pair of Milt Jackson mallets, and they're like the heaviest mallets on the face of the earth. So it's like I don't do weightlifting. I just try to lift those. Well, I just want to say to you lastly, before thank you. I'm going to say the same thing ethnically that Terry Gibbs would say to you, and that's "Sei gesund," be of good health in Yiddish.
Thank you. Be safe. I'm sure I'll see you at the next time we do one of these talk throughs. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
By the way, they're all great records. They're available.
I'm going to get them.
They've been remastered, and the bass sound is really wonderful.
I'm going to listen to them. I've heard them before, and I had the LPs, but now I'll get them back on CD.
Great.
They're
Thank
also
you.
on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
We have a bunch of questions that came in the chat, and I'll take as many of them as we have time for.
Okay.
So everybody with your hand
Mr.
up,
Stavi.
if you could give me, just put in the chat, then I'll. Okay. Thomas Shell. Where are you, Thomas Shell?
Hello, how are you?
Okay. What's up?
How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Great, great. The question I typed, I saw you with your quartet a little over 40 years ago. You came to Rutgers University to do a concert, and you had Kenny Barron and Ben Riley and Buster Williams.
The double bass quartet, yes.
Yes, and you played what I originally thought was a cello.
No.
But you identified it as a piccolo bass.
Yes.
My question to you is, could you explain the concept behind that instrument?
Well, like everybody else, Mr. Shell, I wanted to be a band leader somewhere along my career. I got tired of taking everybody's advice. I got tired of calling all the shots and not getting the respect I thought a sideman should get. So I was going to be the kind of band leader that gave the sideman what I thought that I didn't get when I was kind of a sideman. But I wanted to have an instrument that would put me in front of the band so that when the audience walked into where I was playing, they would automatically focus on the guy in front of the band who clearly was the physical band leader. To make that work and still be a bass player, I had to do two things. Hire another bass player to do my role as a sideman, one, and two, have a bass that physically placed me in front of the band, not only from the range of the instrument, but from the look of the instrument. And I ran into a person, Richard Davis's friend from New Jersey, who was a bass maker. So I met this person. We talked about what my needs were, some general measurements, because I was kind of floundering as to what I needed other than what I didn't need. And he came up with this blueprint about what size it could be, the string length, getting special strings made, how long would it take for it to be successful, and all those details that didn't concern me other than I want something that puts me in front of the band. Having said that, he came back a short time later with this instrument that was to put me in the physical place of a cellist sitting down in a little lower stool than the orchestral bass stool would be, but clearly in front of this trio of piano, another bass player, and drums. To make that work, I had to find a piano player who understood how to comp with two bass players. I had to have a drummer who understood what it's like to play with two bass players, one playing time and one playing solo. And the third choice was, can I find a bass player who doesn't mind playing behind me all night? Well, those guys fit the bill, and we had a great span. We made some great records. I fell in love several times with those guys' choruses and their concept, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Great. That's great. One more question.
Okay.
The piccolo basses, what kind of tuning did you employ?
Top string, ADGC.
ADGC. Okay. All right.
No, wait a minute. Sorry. I haven't played it since May 10. Let me see. CGDA.
Okay.
That's the cello tuning upside down, actually. So I'm playing I'm playing like a French horn, a fourth higher in my head.
Okay.
But when you're my age, you don't care. Just give me the bass, and whatever happens, we'll take our chances.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carolyn, you've been smiling at me for about 20 minutes. Let me hear what you have to ask. What kind of question do you have?
Well, I also go by the name Carrie Coltrane, and I met you through Gene Daniel.
No, I know who you are. I just wanted to see Got Milk. Yes.
Okay.
Carrie's a wonderful singer, and the late Gene McDaniel's arranging and writing partner for a very long time. And I didn't get to have Got Music. Got Music. It's like Got Milk. I got that. Okay.
Well,
how are you,
Maestro? I'm well. I'm very well, thank you. And I purchased your teaching, the online teaching course.
Okay.
And you know me and my buddy. So I'm 4'10", and that's with heels on. So, and I have a 3/4 bass, and you described to have your elbow, here, and you might have answered half of my question by telling me how you sat on the stool with your piccolo bass as a cello, as sort of like a cello.
Yes.
So I think that's what I need to do. I'm tired of trying to reach.
Okay, you can do two things. Why don't you look around? Got Music? Question mark. A 3/4 size bass is pretty tall, even sitting down with the end pin all the way out. One of the difficulties I have, Carrie, on these tours with the bass du jour now, since they don't allow us to take our bass, is having an end bass whose end pin functions.
Oh.
It's either already too short because they cut it off,
right,
or it doesn't allow me to manipulate it so I can actually sit down with a comfortable stool.
Oh.
So I recommend you do two things. First, try to find an undersized bass, not a 3/4 size bass.
Okay. I didn't know they existed. Okay.
Absolutely do. Yeah, they do.
Okay.
And secondly, make sure you can lower the bass low enough
Mm-hmm.
that you aren't playing half position up by your up over your head.
Well, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's a terrible feeling all night.
Well,
I've done that. I've done that, and I felt very embarrassed because I said I know better than that, but the bass doesn't allow me to do what I know is the best way.
well, yeah. I was thinking, well, do I recreate? Do I invent a new way of doing this? And of course not. Why would I reinvent something that's already that works great?
Yeah.
But I couldn't, thank you. I'll just have to shop around for a smaller bass.
Yeah,
Because
they're available.
really
You know,
enjoy playing.
when I was teaching at City College to a couple of the repairmen, the maintenance guys, somehow they found a couple of half-size basses that I gave to my young female students. It was perfect for them. You know,
Excellent.
the young ladies think that the bigger the bass makes them play loud like the guys.
No, 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 no,
Heaven forbid.
no,
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 don't play like, don't copy those guys, man. Come on,
no.
find some better examples. Don't do that.
No, I'm 4'10". I can sing anybody with anybody. I understand about volume and size.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, my
We
sister.
love you. Be safe.
Love you too. Thank
Okay.
Tom Favara?
Yes, Sir Ron, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Yes. I have a question. It's actually in two parts. How do you improve upon your musical ability from a bass pedagogy perspective? I remember you had said, hey, I do a lot of that on the gig, but when you're not on the gig, and say you're facing a challenge in your playing, and through your career, how have you, if you've built a methodology for, hey, I want to improve this in my playing, how do you go about doing it? And then today, is there anything that you'd like to improve in your playing, and how are you going about doing that?
Okay, I have an answer for you. Hold on a minute. The first answer is how do I get better doing what I do, basically.
Right.
Yes, excellent.
I set
And
you
I
up
say
pretty
that
good for that, didn't I?
Pick it up. Get it. Excellent. Do it
Go to
today.
roncarterjazz.com, and that's where you get it.
Okay, now I want to direct your attention to page 46 in the current edition. Scales. When my playing has gotten below my level of acceptance, there's a reason for that, Tom. And the reason for that is always in scales. Having said that, this book on page 46 through 50 has these scales and arpeggios with a different fingering than Samandel or belay or the other books offer you. I have my scales written as I play the bass as horizontally as possible rather than vertically.
Cross.
So I go to this book. I happen to have one laying around my house, and I turn to page 46 through 50, and I play these scales as I have them fingered. That's always the first step in me getting out of this unhappy doldrums. I know how to play the bass. I'm doing it for a long time.
Mhm.
But when you're playing different basses and you're adjusting to that bass, or you just kind of don't find the right physical location for the bass because of the size or the strings or how far the strings are apart or the
Yes.
curvature of the fingerboard or whether the fingerboard is dirty or whether those things, your job, Tom, is to play as best as you can to represent the reason why they hired you. This book allows me to do my own self-diagnosis, my own 5,000 note checkup, and this book allows me to find the solutions that I need so that the next night I'm more on my game than climbing up this ladder with some of the rungs missing.
Mm.
The second thing is Tom, is that I'm determined because I hear sounds all night to find out the best place and the best note to make these sounds work. As I've gotten older, I've gotten more and more. I've gotten more and more determined to get the attention of the guys in the bands I'm working with, so they can hear that the notes that I'm playing with them work somewhere. My job is to convince them that I'm a real guy, that I may play notes they don't expect, but if they trust my judgment, these notes have a value for those guys too. Having said that, I don't win all the battles, Tom, but I will ultimately be in charge of that band. Just keep the money coming.
Yes, indeed.
Omas Keith, I hope I said your name
You
correctly.
said it just right. Thank you so much. Hey, Ron, how you doing? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So good to see you again, sir. And congratulations on the Grammy win. I voted for you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't tell me that. I don't want to. I want to keep my friend's secret.
Again, thank you for all you have done for
Thank you.
always. And I just was hoping to any degree today you could reflect on your recording session for Gil Scott Heron's The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. As a youth, I was loving this recording, but really not cognizant of credits. And with digital now, you can't really see who's on anything. And in the wormhole the other day, it recently came to light that, from what I understand, it was you and Bernard Purdy in the rhythm section on that recording. So again, I was just hoping that you could at all reflect on that recording and, you know, what it means to you today to have been part of such a seminal recording for, you know, for the culture as well. And just for my culture as a producer in music, of rap music as well. And a lover of jazz.
Okay, two quick things. That date for me was not planned. I got a call from the producer, said we haven't got this guy coming from Washington D.C. The band's trying to make a record, but they don't know how to record. Can you come in and help these guys play? I said, well, I'm off for today. Give me time to get down to get my bass and park my car. Yeah, so it was around that kind of help them make a record, not a specific project in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is that when I heard the guys singing the lyrics, I'm experienced in playing with folk singers and poets. When I came to New York in 1959, in the fall, Bill Lee, Spike Lee's dad, was the man. Every folk singer who came to New York had to have Bill Lee. Bill wove some wonderful bass lines in amongst the words of these poets, these Jack Kerouac, lost poets kind of stuff. He found the right notes. He had a great sound, and he made their words have a life. I learned how to understood the process by being his super sub. But the dates I was doing after they were more like jazz dates, where the library was set and standard tunes and not too many originals. But this guy came in, or I came to him actually by the producer. He had another way. Two things what struck me: the quality of his voice, and the fact that he trusted my choice of what range to play the bass in to help him do that. My concern, Mr. Keith, if I can just jump one more paragraph, is that I appreciate, first of all, I'm always amazed that the hip hop and rappers have decided enough of my work works for them.
Right.
After all the choices they have, that just stuns me. And one and a half is that they seldom want to pay. Number two is that if they trust my recording for someone else, rather than have them cut and paste my line for their words, hire me.
Right.
And I can walk in live and do better than that because I'm experienced, I'm older, they're older, the times have changed.
Exactly.
And I can assure you I can find a way to make their poems and their words, their imagery, do it different because I'm there. The bass player, I'm there. Mr. Keith, so next time you do a project that requires that kind of intuitiveness with the lyrics, feel free to track me down. Have a budget, have a concept, and let's try to make this work.
Oh, Mr. Carter, that just is music to my ears. And if you recall, I think we had a positive session together when we worked on Cello Concerto for Red Hot.
Yes. I tell people that the guy who did it, he wrote the bass where it sounded rather than where you played it. So I sent the music back to you. Said, look,
I remember.
tell the guy to write this part up an octave. We can get me and Gary Bartz.
Yep.
It's a nice record, by the way.
What an honor and a pleasure it was to just have you guys both together, and that you were so pleased to be working on Bach, which was just mind blowing to me. You are one of the heaviest cats I've ever met. And let me just say one more thing, if I may, Mr. Carter. Just the simple fact that you got a phone call that day to show up to a recording that is so life-changing and so seminal is just a testament to how powerful and heavy music is.
Amen.
I think you are someone who has been going with the ebb and flow by making your own rules as well and deciding what to do when you wanted to. So I commend you. My hat's off to you.
Amen.
And so much gratitude for all you continue to do.
Thank you. Yafi, I got your hand up. Can I help you?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm a bass player too. I play upright, and I just
Another one of those guys. Oh, okay. Come on. Bring it on. Come on.
I just wanted to ask a question about your time with Miles Davis. Herbie Hancock talked about when he was playing with Miles in the 60s and trying to go for things in his comping, that sometimes he would play the wrong things, but then then Miles would he would accommodate what Herbie did and make it sound right. I wanted to know if there were any moments where you were trying to go for things that you didn't feel right about, but then you could sense Miles was trying to accommodate you.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Tyhemba.
Tyhemba. I was only a bass player in that band for 5.5 years. And understanding that, I understood that Miles understood that too. He understood that when I play a note, that affects the whole tenor, sorry guys, the whole tenor of the band.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, we were playing Autumn Leaves at one point, and I had some changes in my ear. I was trying to figure out how do they work. So what I did on one chorus was, rather than play a G dominant 7 minor, I played a B natural for the first note in that measure. And that was at the end of Miles' solo. So he finishes playing, and he walks around to the bandstand, and I feel this tug on my coat. Now Miles is about 5'11", something like that, and I'm 6'4". So I'm thinking to myself, who the F is tugging on my coat? So I look around, and Miles does like this, and I'm still playing. It's Wayne's solo now. I'm still playing the tune, and Miles is saying, "What's that note?" I'm saying, be natural. The third of the chord, G major, not G minor. I can't talk to you and play at the same time, so don't ask me any more questions now.
That is great. The third, man.
So, having said that, he understood that my notes were there for a specific reason, even the notes that were more unusual for him to expect to hear. I never thought that it wouldn't work. I was more concerned, is this the right place to do that? Is he not playing right there? So this note, B natural, sounds twice as big and twice as loud.
Yes.
Without being twice as big and twice as loud, because of where I played it. Because when I played it. And then the fact that it made him stop playing. Yay!
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That helped. And I just have one more question.
Okay.
During the 60s, there were a lot of kind of inspirational bass players like Reggie Workman, Jimmy Garrison, Charles Mingus. Did any of their playing affect your playing when you were playing with Miles and with other people, or were you kind of just, I'm just going to do my thing and that's just how it's going to be?
Well, that may have been the vibe you felt, but that wasn't my attitude. I appreciated all they were doing. They all had a different place in their head for the bass to be in the band. Minkus had his place where he wanted the bass to be. Reggie Workman, Gary Peacock, the late Scott Leffert. They all had their place. Sam Jones, Rufus. They all had their place in their heads where the bass wanted to be, and they played accordingly. I don't have the right to judge them on where they think the bass belongs because they're the only bass player in that band. I'm the only bass player in that band, whatever done. And I'm determined that I'm no longer the guy behind the palm tree. I got a nice suit. I'm wearing some very expensive shoes, and I got some great fucking notes. Here comes one of them. I'm coming from that point of view, and because I'm coming from that view, they're not offended. I'm saying I'm not playing take it or leave it. I'm saying wait till the next note. If you think that's bad, check out check out this phrase. Having said that, if you get my book, the chartography, and see how one chorus of mine in Autumn Leaves of all things is analyzed for 5 different performances with the same perfect laboratory band, you will see how I developed an idea on a gig, playing a tune for the next 5 performances of that song and how the band follows my development. You want to see a transcription? That's it. Having said that, one last thing before it gets to be Saturday. I got another book out. I'm not done yet.
Oh,
Carterisms.
all
And
right. All right.
and it's based on my influence for the Brazilian bass player playing Bossa Nova all night.
Nice.
The first thing I did was remove him from doubling the bass drum.
Yes.
Then I have my notes that kind of negate the bass drum's presence.
Yes.
So when you get a moment, my friend, take a chance and order this book. Got some nice pictures and some nice QR codes. Really nice. Mr. Stavi, how are you?
Oh, good to see you. And I'm going to see you in Germany on the 1st of July. You're playing 2 hours away from us in Stuttgart, and we'll come to see you there.
Come on by and say hello, you and your family. Good to see you.
Of course. Well, to start with, a belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
Again, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it to the big celebration in the Carnegie Hall. I'll be there. I'll be there for the 90th. And for all of them, but I'm sure it must have been incredible night. How, I mean,
I can't believe I can't believe that people were lined up outside New York, 4 deep, around the block. Hearing this old guy sitting down playing the upright bass at 85, and going in there with respect and love of the music that he tries to portray whenever he plays the bass.
Well, you deserve
it's amazing, man.
Oh, I'm
Thank you.
I mean, well, as I said, I couldn't make it. I'll be there for the 90th and for all the rest of them. And I was actually about to ask something about the Bossa Nova book, yeah, if you can tell. But I mean, I'll get the book anyway.
Yeah, it's a good book, man.
That's kind of really my thing, part of the other things. But yeah, I'll see you in Germany in that kind of. It's a small place. I think it must be nice, kind of like scenery there or whatever. On the 1st of July.
Okay, we're gonna play Mr. Bowtie, which shows you how that works.
yeah. All the best to you.
Thank you.
And to Quintel, and lots of love.
Thank you. You stay well, my friend.
All the best.
Okay. Hillary, I see your name up there with a bass scroll. Can you got something to say to me? Come on.
Yes,
It's
sir.
ladies' Day. Hillary, where are you?
You gave me a lot of confidence last summer in Victor Wooten's Bass in Nature Camp. Can you hear me, sir?
Now I can.
Okay. So last summer I asked a question in Victor Wooten's Bass in Nature Camp, and I was wondering if I may ask again about the longevity of playing and outside of just the practice itself, using your body as the instrument, and tuning into nature and the things that you practice that keep you healthy along the way. As somebody with a disability that I can hide in small amounts, but I can't often hide at all, you gave some advice about waking up and doing what you can do with the body that you wake up with each day. And that brought me back to an everyday practice of bass, as well as an everyday practice of movement with physical therapy, along with a lot of other things. So I wanted to come back and ask again, and thank you for sharing your own experience with waking up and running and doing what you're able to each day. But you touched on something else that I think speaks to the longevity of a bass player as well. I'm young, but I have a disability that makes it so that I will not live a long life. But there's something about the strong, silent adversity of a bass player and standing behind other people and making them shine brighter. And maybe that's part of being a substitute teacher and that kind of thing, or maybe it's part of how music moves people. But I was wondering if you could speak more about your connection with nature and things that you do when you're not physically able to practice
Okay.
that keep you in the longevity.
Hillary,
Sorry.
stop. You got about 95 questions, and I can't get to them all, but let me answer them as I see the importance of them, okay? What I've always tried to do, Hillary, is invite my surgeon friends who are really jazz fans, lovers as well, come to see me play. I want them to see what it takes to make this bass do what pleases them. I want them to see how long I stand all night for a 1 hour, 90-minute set. I want them to see how I'm holding the bass for that same 90 minutes with a minimum amount of moving physically. I want them to see how much time I put in to finding out where are the notes located that allows me to physically reach them as physically graceful as possible. I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And I think my interest in having my surgeon doctor friends see me has helped me kind of probably 1 minute. Don't go away. At one point, Hillary, I thought I was a pretty decent basketball player. And so I went out for the freshman basketball squad in college. I played one semester of second string basketball. So I had some physical abilities that I decided to see how far I could go. Having said that, I knew I couldn't play ball and be a bass player too. So basketball lost. No, I'm not sure Michael Jordan appreciates that or Magic Johnson. Ray Brown did. You know. I'm not sure what your disability is, but I think if you will discontinue seeing the bass player as the guy behind the band and see the bass player as an integral part of whatever music progress the band is going to make, depending on how well you play that night, they'll give you a chance to breathe a lot easier. You know the picture of the guy with the atlas like this, and that can't be you. This has got to be you.
Got to stop hiding. That's what Vic said too. Well, step one is I'm here.
Yes,
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That's a great start.
I will be watching.
And the last thing is,
yes,
the
sir.
last thing is, find a warm up routine on the bass. I'm not a big fan of the hand exercises for a lot of physical reasons. If you want to warm up, get a bass and play some scales. And I go back to my book. It shows you how I play these instruments, how I play these scales with a minimum amount of physical activity. I'm playing more horizontal than vertically. If you think about that, and as you play, and just kind of just step back and let the bass help you find these notes, Hillary, you'll find that you all of a sudden you're in charge of the music. It's a great, great, great feeling.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of control in the economy of motion. Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you be safe.
You too. Thank you. Be well.
Okay.
Okay. Next, we have somebody who's been waiting for a while. In
Okay,
the chat
give it to me.
here.
Who's it?
Okay. We got so many people now that I have to find it. Keith Karasik. You still here?
Yes,
Keith?
I am. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Maestro.
are you?
We met in Baltimore 2 or 3 years ago, and I want to thank you for all the work that you've done. Kudos to you, the whole bit. I have always wanted to ask you a question, and and I'll be brief because I know there's a lot of other people that want to ask you a question as well. But for those who don't know, if you recall, I did a master's degree program recently, and I used your music for my recital, and part of that included reading your book and reading other interviews by you. And one of the things that you've said is that one of the questions that comes up a lot in interviews is a question that you absolutely hate. And that question is generally, what did you gain from working with Miles Davis? And then your comment has typically been, well, that's interesting. Nobody asks me, what did Miles Davis gain from working with me? So if that hasn't been done, I want to set history straight and ask you that question, sir. And I'd like to hear your answer.
Okay, what did I learn from Miles Davis?
No, sir. No.
What did Miles learn from me?
Yes.
Okay, well, again, unfortunately, he can't answer that for some obvious reasons. But I'll give you a brief story that may answer the question of what did he see in me that made him want to hire me. As you know, we Herbie, me, Tony, and Wayne, have been interviewed 1,000 times about our relationship with Miles Davis. And one of the things Herbie brings up is that when we first met together at Miles's living room basement, we started a couple of tunes off, and Miles left the band and went upstairs and told me, "Hey, Ron, you're in charge of the band." And that kind of says it all. He didn't really know me. We'd only met for a couple of gigs. We've been on the tour for a while, but he felt wherever he was in his head that this bass player in this band should be the guy in charge of this band. Although they're all relatively strangers, being Tony and Herbie with a few gigs and George a few gigs, but someone's in charge of this band. He decided I was going to be that guy.
Yeah.
We didn't take a vote. We didn't pass a law. We didn't go to Congress.
No.
He decided I was it, and he went upstairs and was watching the fights or something. Okay, well, they understood that. They recognized, heard the band, that Miles Davis, who we all revered, has decided that this bass player in the band, is in charge of the band.
Awesome.
So that's the best way I can answer your question. What did I learn from him? Designate authority and mean it.
Wow. Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, how about next is Alexander Dow, P-A-O-U. Alexander, you still here? Okay.
Let's take 2 more questions, and I have to have lunch before I go to work.
Yep, sounds good. Okay. Mathema? You there? No? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. Okay. I think your question is, what do you think about playing on stage with headphones? Can music still really happen that way?
I've never done that, and I'm not sure how you play on stage with headphones. Are you actually plugged in? What are you plugged into? Are you listening to the baseball game or the World Series? What's in these earphones that can't wait till you finish playing on stage? I'm not sure. And pardon my cynicism. I trust that cynicism comes in from being over 16. But I think when you ask me about playing with earphones on the stage, my first view is there's this kid in this room with his TV set playing the game with this big set of earphones on. He's playing to the screen, to the game. You know, I don't know that mindset because I'm way past that activity. So if you could explain to me what's in this earphones that's so commanding and demanding that you can't make this gig on the stage without these earphones.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, what's in these phones, man? Hello.
Hello. Thanks.
Okay.
It might be a click.
There's
It might be a click or a backing track. And then you have the inner ear monitors. I'm just jumping in.
Yeah, I don't know. I got my own monitor. You give me the beat, man.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't need that other stuff to go along with it. I don't need.
I'll mix off the board.
Yeah.
It's
I'm the mix.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One more
Alrighty.
question, ladies and gentlemen. We call it a day, so I get my milk and cookies and take a nap before I work tonight. Michelle Burke, find somebody for me before I start chewing on the microphone cable here.
No, I think we're good.
No. One more.
Oh,
One
okay.
more.
Mr. Xavier, you have your hand up? Hello?
Yeah, thanks. Hello.
Yeah, come on. There you go. How can I help you? Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
In what decades do you think you created the best music?
Oh.
You recorded the best records.
I'm still working on that. The more I play, the more choices I see. The more musicians I talk to, the more they are aware of what a bass player can help with their music. And the more I hear sounds in my head, I'm trying to figure out where does this sound belong. And I played it in the wrong place last night. Can I find a better place for it? So I'm looking for those places as I go to work this evening here in New York. And hopefully I'll find some solutions to answer your question at our next talk show.
Mesrose is streaming his performance tonight live from the first set. So
With Jeffrey
Mesrose, New
Keezer.
York, you might with Jeffrey Keezer. So everyone might want to log in for that. It is a free stream from Mesrose.
I will be there.
Right. Also, Steve Bailey put a link in this chat, if you look in the chat, to a great interview with Maestro that when we're done here, you might want to check out. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Professor Bailey.
No, Steve.
Not an interview.
Yeah.
It's not an interview. It's just the maestro laying it down and getting Marcus Miller's attention. It's
Well, that's much more interesting than an interview. I'm glad to clarify.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.